Chris Kerner's formula for side hustles: forget passion, chase profit, beat your fear of what people think, take action fast, test ideas on Facebook, copy what already works using Web Archive, the goldmines. AI services for businesses and boring local services nobody talks about, low investment, high returns, just start.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your entire stack of sources, all the articles, the research, your own notes, and we just pull out that specific high leverage knowledge that you actually need.
Yeah.
And today we are tackling a subject that has, it's completely captured the collective imagination.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you build real sustainable wealth through side hustles, through entrepreneurial ventures, but without needing a massive bank loan to get started?
It's what some people call the financial Olympics.
Yeah.
And the amount of noise out there is just deafening.
Right.
Every other ad you see is promising you'll be earning passive income in like 30 days.
Which is never true.
It's never true.
Yeah.
But our sources today, they really cut through that hype. They center on this one entrepreneur, Chris Kerner, who has just a remarkable track record. We're talking over 80 businesses launched, millions in revenue.
80.
All built on this core principle of simplicity and, crucially, low capital.
And that's the part that I think is so powerful, right? The accessibility of his approach. He claims that a staggering 90% of the ventures he started, or even just analyzed, can be launched with $500 or less.
Think about that. $500.
That just makes the entire world of entrepreneurship immediately available to anyone, to someone just testing the waters on nights and weekends.
So our mission for this deep dive is, it's pretty ambitious. We are going to move past all the glossy surface level ideas.
Yeah, the start a blog advice.
Exactly. We're going to unpack the foundational mindset you need, that psychological shift required to just get over the execution roadblock. Then we'll extract his very counterintuitive strategy, which is all about copying success.
And finally, we're providing you, the listener, with 3 specific, very detailed business ideas. And each one is tailored to a distinct starting capital level. $500, $1,000, and $5,000.
And the core insight that's teased across all these sources is really this. You don't have to be some kind of innovative genius to make millions. You just need to be a strategic replicator who executes faster than everyone else, using, surprisingly simple tools that are probably on your phone right now.
Okay, let's get started.
So we have to start with what the source calls the accessibility paradox.
Okay.
Because on one hand, the timing for starting a business it has never been better.
That's the argument the sources make so forcefully. We're living in this era of just abundant tools. Think about the friction that used to exist.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you wanted to launch an app 10 years ago, you needed to hire a dev team. You had to go get venture funding, maybe physically move to, San Francisco.
A costly tech hub. Now, you have AI tools that can generate website code or product visuals just from a sentence, from a natural language prompt.
You have fast global internet. Your phone has more processing power than, the supercomputers of a generation ago. And this explosion of low-cost tools just removes friction that used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
The flip side, of course, is that competition is also fiercer than ever.
Sure.
But the abundance of tools is such a massive force multiplier that it still, it tips the scales dramatically in favor of the starter.
Agreed. So, okay, if it's so accessible, why do most people still fail to actually do anything with their ideas?
And that brings us to the primary roadblocks that Kerner identifies.
And the number one killer is psychological, right? It's deeply rooted in fear.
Yeah, the fear of what people think. That paralyzing worry about judgment.
It sounds so simple when you say it out loud, but it's profound. People genuinely worry that some acquaintance from high school, someone they haven't talked to in a decade, is going to see their new venture on social media and judge them.
Exactly. That perceived shame of doing something new, or like starting small, selling refurbished stuff on Marketplace, or cold calling local businesses, that's often enough to just stop an idea dead in its tracks.
That internal monologue can be just devastating. So what's the practical mental strategy for silencing that fear?
The required shift is. It's beautifully blunt. You have to reevaluate your pain. The source puts it plainly. The pain of your problem needs to be greater than how much you care about what people think about you.
So if your desire to get out of debt, or to gain control of your time, or just build a safety net for your family, if that outweighs the shame of some temporary judgment, that's when the switch flips.
And if you can flip that switch, suddenly the world opens up. But there's a second roadblock, an operational one that stops people even if they get past the fear.
Right, and that's the failure to connect the tools you already have with the business ideas.
Yes. People use Facebook Marketplace to sell an old couch, but they don't see it for what it is.
Yeah.
A powerful, free validation mechanism for a new business.
They don't connect that existing everyday tech with their core entrepreneurial concepts.
Like someone might have a great idea for custom woodworking. They'll go spend $20,000 building a shop and buying inventory before they ever try to validate if people in their city actually want to buy high-end furniture. They haven't connected the dots.
When they should be doing what?
They should be posting mock-up designs on a local Facebook group or on Marketplace, just saying, taking commissions for custom tables, just to gauge interest before buying the first piece of lumber.
This whole foundational mentality, moving past fear, using the tools you have, it's really rooted in his own story of his first venture, right?
Yeah, and it was born out of a very specific need. He was 9 years old, living in Utah, and he desperately wanted this red Schwinn bicycle. And his parents couldn't afford it.
So that desire creates the initial financial pressure, the emotional necessity.
And he lived across the street from a golf course.
Ah.
So golf balls were constantly flying into his yard, into the ditches nearby. This wasn't some abstract market study. It was an immediate, obvious, physical opportunity sitting right in front of him.
He connected that specific resource, the white golf ball, with the money he needed to buy the bike.
And he spent days just collecting them, washing them, and he put up this little hand-painted sign. Golf balls, 3 for $1.
The simplicity is what matters. He had inventory, a price point, and a customer base golfers who didn't want to buy new ones.
And the big takeaway isn't just that he got the bike. It's the realization that business is immediately approachable. It doesn't start with a 3-year plan. It starts with a recognizable need and an immediate opportunity to solve it.
Even if the problem is just a 9-year-old wanting a specific toy.
Exactly. That early experience taught him that business wasn't some scary, intimidating thing. It was just haggling and numbers. And that approach really sets the stage for the rest of his philosophy.
Okay, so once you've shed that fear of execution, the next major hurdle is strategy. And this is where it gets counterintuitive. We're always taught we have to be unique, innovative, disruptive.
And he advocates for the exact opposite. He says most people fall into what he calls the zero-sum trap.
The zero-sum trap. Break that down.
It's paralyzing. An entrepreneur has a decent idea, they go online, they search for it, and they see a few competitors already doing it.
And they immediately give up.
Immediately. They assume the market is oversaturated. They quit because they believe business is a finite pie. If someone else is eating, there's nothing left for them.
So you're telling me the secret to success is basically being second, not first. Doesn't that mean you're always competing on price, or you're just perpetually behind?
And that's the critical challenge to that mindset. His response is that when an idea already exists and it's successful, you shouldn't see that as a signal to quit. You should see it as validation.
Someone else already spent the time, the money, the energy, fighting all the early battles, figuring out pricing, audience, features.
Exactly. Someone went to the front lines of the battlefield and validated this for you. That puts the whole idea of originality in perspective.
Yeah. So innovation and uniqueness are often just signals of ego or pride. The entrepreneur wants credit for the idea.
Right, rather than signals of market necessity. If you can replicate 80% of what works, you get to profitability so much faster. Innovation is expensive. Replication is cheap.
The goal is to skip the competitors' early failures and just start with the optimized system they have today.
And the global market, 8 billion connected people, is massive enough for you and your competitor to both win.
So how do we actually do this? How do we replicate successfully? The sources detail a couple of specific tools for this.
Yeah, to become a forensic analyst of success. The first is the Web Archive. Sometimes people call it the Wayback Machine.
Right.
This tool is so critical because it gives you historical snapshots of a competitor's website over time. A company's website is basically a diary of their strategy.
I can see how that's powerful. You can literally see their journey. Maybe they launched their first product at like $99 with just 2 features and a really clunky design.
And then a few years later, you see they optimized the sales copy, they jacked the price up to $499, and they simplified their product line. You can literally watch the evolution.
So you can see what they offered initially versus what they dropped. It's invaluable intelligence.
And then you overlay that with the second tool, which is SimilarWeb or any comparable traffic analysis tool.
Okay, so how do those two work together?
You overlay the traffic data onto the website changes you saw in the web archive. Let's say you see a competitor launched a massive ad campaign and redesigned their site to be mobile-friendly in, say, the third quarter of 2018.
And SimilarWeb might show that their monthly traffic jumped from 3,000 visitors to 4,500 that same quarter.
Exactly. You connect the strategic change to the business outcome. So the implication is, don't you dare try to innovate by building some complex desktop-only site, because your successful competitor already proved that mobile first was the key traffic driver back in 2018.
The advantage is just massive. You start where they are today, you leverage their hard-won knowledge, gained over years of expensive trial and error, for free.
And his case study on this is the most compelling. The iPhone screen recycling business. It happened purely by accident, but it just solidified this belief in strategic replication.
So he was running a small phone repair shop. This is around 2010.
Yeah, and he gets a cold call from a buyer. And this buyer is interested in purchasing the broken, cracked iPhone screens he had collected. The offer was $3 per screen.
Okay, so most shop owners would just sell the inventory, be happy with the extra cash.
But he asked why.
Oh.
And the buyer explained that the broken glass could be removed, the LCD component could be remanufactured in China, and then resold as a remanufactured unit.
And his immediate reaction was,
I need to copy that guy who called me. No emotion, just I need to copy that.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know the competitor's company name, their blueprint, their pricing, but he had the entire concept validated for him in one phone call.
So he goes to Alibaba, messages every vendor selling iPhone screens, and just asks, do you recycle?
He finds the recyclers, starts shipping broken screens, and copies the model instantly.
And the results were pretty staggering.
$2 million in the first year, scaling to $9 million before they exited. And the decision to just replicate a proven, though unconventional, business model was the key. They didn't try to innovate, they just stuck to the validated model.
And this strategy is proven again by his painful failure in the e-commerce fulfillment business.
Oh yeah, this is the flip side. They were storing and shipping products for other brands. And he looked at his successful competitors and thought they were structurally idiots for charging these complex tiered fees.
What kind of complex fees are we talking about here?
Fees for storage, fees for pick, pack, ship, fees based on the number of items in a box, fees for tracking expiration dates. I mean, it was a complex 5-page invoice.
So he decided his innovation would be to differentiate with a simple flat fee per order, zero storage fees. He thought customers would flock to the simplicity.
It seems like an intuitive, customer-centric innovation.
Totally. What went wrong?
He wasted 2 years proving that the complex fees existed for a reason. Customers would inevitably go out of business, leaving the fulfillment company with tons of inventory and no one to bill for storage.
And the simple flat fee didn't account for the high costs of, say, tracking expiration dates for food products or the intense labor for complex orders.
He learned the hard way. They eventually had to revert back to the exact same complex pricing structure their competitors used. And the profound conclusion here is this. Assume your successful competitor is not an idiot.
Assume they've learned the hard lessons through expensive experimentation. By copying their structure, you don't have to. You get those 2 years back instantly.
Okay, so if the strategy is replication, the execution has to be about fast validation. We need to check if the market actually cares. So what does validation really mean in a low-capital environment?
It means checking if the market gives a damn about your product as quickly and as cheaply as humanly possible.
You're looking for what he calls the boulder chasing me effect. Overwhelming customer demand that just pulls you forward. That's product market fit.
We've all seen the alternative, right? Pushing a massive boulder up a hill for years, draining your savings and your energy. You want to find that small niche where demand is so intense you're struggling to fulfill orders, not find customers.
And to achieve that low-friction test, he recommends one foundational tool above all others, Facebook.
Which includes marketplace, groups, pages, ads, all of it.
It's used by 1 in 4 humans on the planet. It is the most accessible testing ground available.
So let's walk through the specific case study in the sources. The low-cost validation for a health supplement. Creatine for women.
Right. And the problem they were trying to solve was taste. Creating a creatine that women would actually enjoy taking.
So step 1 today is visualization. You don't need a factory.
No, you use AI tools, nano, ChatGPT, image generators to mock up the product in different forms. Maybe they look at a pink lemonade powder versus, say, a fruit-flavored gummy. This takes minutes and costs basically nothing.
Step 2 is the low-friction test. You take those polished mock-up images
And you post them to Facebook Marketplace. Not because that's your target sales channel, but because it gives you instantaneous feedback on views, clicks, and messages with minimal effort or ad spend.
So they tested both the gummy image and the powder image with similar headlines, like creatine that actually tastes good, same local market, and just used a simple Google Sheet to track the results.
Yeah, views and inquiries over 2 hours. The goal is data, not sales.
And at the same time, they're doing step 4, which is leveraging Facebook groups.
Concurrently, they joined related communities, moms who work out, female endurance runners, and they just searched existing conversations about creatine. Are women complaining about the chalky texture? Are they concerned about the price of existing gummies?
So the organic research confirmed the problem, and the marketplace test validated the preferred form factor, which was the gummy, and the price acceptance.
And they determined the optimal product, price point, and pitch, all before spending a single dollar on samples or hiring a co-packer. The speed of validation is everything here.
This emphasis on speed brings us to a foundational skill that he claims is achievable in days, not weeks, and it's essential for anyone launching a low-capital side hustle, learning Facebook ads.
He calls it the infinite money glitch. Now that sounds like hyperbole.
A little bit, yeah.
So let's probe that. What he means is, if you can master the ability to spend $1 on an ad and consistently get $2 or $3 back in sales, you have effectively built a magic money machine.
But is it really that easy? Most people who try Facebook ads, they fail, they lose money, they get frustrated with the complex dashboard.
The difference is commitment. He suggests that if you commit to learning by doing, not by watching endless courses, you can get proficient enough in a few days of intense application to find that arbitrage.
So the reason it feels like a glitch is just that very few people bother to commit to mastering the skill themselves.
Yeah, they outsource it to expensive agencies who just run the same test cycles that you could run for $50.
So the core skill isn't knowing every single feature of the ads manager. It's understanding the fundamentals of testing, targeting, and crucially, tracking the return on your investment.
Absolutely. Should be a foundational skill, just like knowing how to write an email or use a spreadsheet, because it is the most direct way to connect an audience of billions to a product, and thus to profit.
Okay, so moving from that solo entrepreneur testing phase, we hit the question of growth and scale, which often means partnerships. And Kerner is highly skeptical here.
Yeah, he notes that co-founder failure rates are significantly higher than solo founders.
And the structural flaw is what? Due diligence?
The extreme lack thereof. He says people put 99% less thought into choosing a business partner than they do into choosing a romantic partner. They make these career-defining decisions over brunch, agreeing to a clean 50-50 equity split because they think simplicity means stability.
But that 50-50 assumption is so deeply flawed, isn't it? I mean, to be fair, both people have to put in the exact same effort, the same connections, the same money.
And most impossibly, they have to develop at the exact same rate for the entire life of the business, which never happens.
Right. One partner might quit their job and work 80 hours a week, while the other makes one high-leverage phone call that generates millions in revenue. Is their value equal?
And when that divergence in contribution happens, resentment is absolutely guaranteed.
So the advice is to start alone first, to learn who you are. What kind of operator are you?
Exactly. Are you a starter, the visionary who loves the initial chaos? Are you a maintainer, the process-driven operator? Or are you a finisher, the deal closer and exit strategist? You have to understand your own weakness before you try to find someone else's strength.
And once you know your role, you can partner strategically, but the timing of that agreement, the define the relationship talk.
The DTR, yeah, it's everything. Don't do it too early over that infamous brunch where it's all based on enthusiasm. And don't wait too late when one person has already scaled the company to $1 million in revenue and the other person suddenly wants 50%.
So the sweet spot is to agree upfront to define equity only after hitting a specific measurable metric.
Exactly. Like when we reach $10,000 in monthly recurring revenue, or once we get 100 paying customers, then we define the percentages based on the actual contributions up to that point. It reflects results, not just good intentions.
And a final, highly pragmatic piece of advice here. Prioritize cash flow over equity.
Yes. Prioritize profit splits for operators over dangling equity. The reason is simple and brutal. Most equity goes to zero. Cash flow, a percentage of the profit, is real money that rewards the daily grind.
This all leads to this big contradiction in his journey, right? The conflict between his surface area approach, launching 80-plus businesses, testing everything, and the hyper-focus you see with figures like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk.
Right, who operate at like 80 to 100% signal, filtering out almost everything else.
And he acknowledges that the person who focuses relentlessly is statistically more likely to become a billionaire. But he argues that his goal isn't necessarily that level of wealth. This is a rare moment of self-awareness.
He describes the outcome of that hyper-focus as miserable Chris.
Miserable Chris.
An endless cycle of board reports, high-stakes meetings, and just severe time away from his family. He realized that pursuing that extreme wealth meant sacrificing his present.
He prioritized being a good present father and living an awesome life now, rather than generating wealth for, his great-grandkids in the year 2300.
And that is a profound trade-off many entrepreneurs just shy away from admitting. The realization that enough is enough, and that relentless focus can often equal relentless misery.
He also frames his lack of focus, especially earlier in his career, not as a weakness, but as a potential signal.
Yeah, like if he was distracted from a specific business, it usually meant the business wasn't the right fit. When he hit perfect product market fit, the distraction just disappeared because the demand pulled him forward.
So instead of beating yourself up about a lack of focus, maybe the question is, why am I distracted? Is it a signal the market doesn't care, or that this just isn't the right model for my personality?
It shifts the blame from a personal moral failing, like a lack of discipline, to a strategic signal, a lack of fit.
Okay, the difficulty in choosing to focus or not to focus, that ties directly into the holy grail everyone's chasing, passive income.
Right. But before we get to the actionable ideas, we have to clarify what that term actually means because it's so frequently misunderstood.
His definition of true passive income is
an income received without continual effort. He cites treasury bonds or certain real estate trusts as examples. It is extremely rare, especially in the early days of a side hustle.
Which means you must be willing to create what he calls sweaty, ugly income first.
You have to follow the profit until you can afford to follow your passion. The statistical likelihood that what you love and what makes money will overlap at the beginning is almost zero.
And he proved this to himself with a brief but profitable venture he ran, the concierge car buying business.
This was pure active income. He got a dealer's permit and started buying cars wholesale at auction for clients.
The model itself was excellent. A customer would pay him a flat fee, say $700, to buy a specific car for them.
So the customer gets a wholesale price and he avoids all the inventory risk.
But the reality was just grueling. He talks about driving cars back from auctions in the Texas heat for $700 a pop.
And he shared this one story about a tire blowing out on the freeway on a 100-degree day, waiting 2 hours for a tow truck, and realizing that $700 fee suddenly felt incredibly small.
The business was profitable, but he hated every single minute of it because he wasn't passionate about cars.
And the key realization was that he was able to pivot and shut it down, despite the profit, because it taught him what he didn't want. It was a successful test that revealed a negative outcome for his quality of life.
This brings us to the complex quitting conundrum, the Plan B paradox. The standard, rational advice is to never burn the boats too soon.
Right. Test thoroughly on nights and weekends, wait until scaling is proven, have a safety net.
But there's a contradictory view, the toxic fuel view.
Yeah, that sometimes having the boats burned for you, having Plan B forcibly removed, forces Plan A to thrive. It creates this powerful chip on your shoulder, a toxic motivation driven by the need to prove something.
And this ties into a psychological study mentioned in the sources, the one on Plan B.
The students were given a puzzle for a reward, but were also told they could easily get the same reward from a vending machine elsewhere. That was Plan B.
And the students with the safety net worked significantly less hard on the puzzle, on Plan A.
The human psyche inherently reserves effort when a safety net exists. When the stakes are raised and the necessity to succeed multiplies, a side hustle making $50,000 working 20 hours a week can jump to $500,000 when the hours double to 40 and you go all in. That survival instinct raises the performance level.
Okay, we've covered the mindset, the strategy of replication. Now let's apply those lessons to specific, actionable business ideas for 3 distinct capital levels.
Right, let's get into the details.
Starting with $500. 0 employees, high profit potential.
The largest macro opportunity right now, one that's highly scalable and needs minimal technical skill, is the AI implementation service for small businesses.
What's the size of this knowledge gap we're talking about?
It's massive. There are 400 million small businesses globally. 77% of owners know they need AI, but only 5% are using it meaningfully.
They know how to run their business dog training, gutter cleaning, but they don't have the time or expertise to navigate large language models.
They need an installer, just like they need an electrician.
So how do you execute this with just $500?
You use maybe $100 for the AI subscriptions or learning these proprietary tools. He calls them vibe coding tools, like Replit or Lindy.
So it's like being an orchestra conductor. You give directions in plain English rather than playing the instrument yourself.
Precisely. You prompt. Build an app that manages customers for dog trainers. And the AI provides the initial architecture. The need for 5 years of coding expertise is just gone.
And with the remaining $400,
You invest in meta ads, targeting local businesses in a defined radius, let's say Austin, Texas.
and the ad copy should be simple. Stop missing leads, save your business money with AI. You target local dog trainers, gutter cleaners, plumbers.
And the monetization model is dual layered. You charge $500 to $5,000 upfront for the implementation. For example, building an AI voice agent for a local plumber that answers calls after 5 p.m. so that plumber never misses a potential $5,000 emergency repair job.
And then the recurring income comes from maintenance.
Yes, a 20% recurring monthly fee. And the true genius is that the solution you built for that first plumber in Austin can be copy-pasted and sold to every other plumber globally. You just change the name on the website.
Okay, the second $500 idea is drop servicing for home services.
This is drop shipping, but applied to physical labor. The goal is to become the superior marketing and user experience arm for a local business that's great at fulfillment, but technologically illiterate.
So take auto repair. A local mechanic might charge $40 for a basic oil change, and they just rely on word of mouth.
You create a clean, frictionless website where customers can book and pay instantly for an express oil change. You charge $80 for that service. When the booking comes in, you subcontract the fulfillment, the actual oil change, to that local mechanic for $45.
You keep the margin, the mechanic gets a new customer without paying for marketing, you're handling the money and the superior customer experience, which is what people pay a premium for.
And the third idea is niche directory websites. This is closer to the passive end of the spectrum.
These are highly specific lists. We're talking WisconsinIceSuppliers.com.
Or a directory of every dog park in Seattle, with reviews and details. You use low-cost vibe coding to build the framework once. Monetization is twofold. First, you install Google Ad Network display ads.
And second, once you establish SEO traffic, you engage in permissionless marketing.
That means you market their business for them first. You reach out to a business getting high traffic from your site and say, hey, we've been bringing you customers for months. Would you like to pay $300 a month for priority placement? It's an easy sell.
Okay, let's double the budget to $1,000. This shifts us into local businesses that require a bit more material investment.
And the first idea is the wedding rental business. This capitalizes on a huge macro trend. 75% of weddings are now outside, so demand for one-off, unique rental items is exploding.
How does $1,000 translate into a tangible, high-return rental item?
You build a high-demand, Instagrammable item, like a custom wooden wedding arch. The material cost might only be $200, $300. That arch can then rent for $1,000 per wedding.
And the key strategic move is to bypass the individual brides and grooms. You focus your marketing where?
You target event organizers and wedding planners on platforms like The Knot, Zola, or WeddingWire. A single relationship with a high-volume planner can yield 15-20 bookings a year.
Okay, the second $1,000 idea is the local email newsletter.
This is the ultimate example of leveraging meta ads to acquire a low-cost, hyper-local audience that you own.
So the execution details.
Use a free trial for a newsletter software like Beehive. Your entire $1,000 is spent on meta ads. You target a defined local area. Let's use Seattle aiming to acquire subscribers at about $1 per person. Your $1,000 buys you 1,000 highly localized subscribers.
And the content must be hyperlocal and written in a personal voice, not generic ChatGPT text.
Right. Weekly email with local news, events, discounts, making it feel like a genuine local is writing it. This builds the trust you need to monetize.
And how does that translate into profit?
You realize that about 10% of all adults are business owners. So 100 of your 1,000 subscribers are potential sponsors. You charge local businesses, a new coffee shop, an insurance agent, a flat fee, maybe $500 per weekly send.
With that pricing, the initial $1,000 investment is recouped in just 2 months.
The template is easily scalable. Once Seattle is running, you replicate the entire process in Portland, then Boise. You already have the playbook.
Now we jump to $5,000. This is the entry point where we can get closer to real estate, specifically RV parks and mobile home parks.
This is where true passive income becomes much more realistic. But the focus has to be on small scale. He insists that small RV parks, like 3 to 10 sites, are 3 to 10 times more profitable than single-family rental homes with less risk.
But this sounds so capital intensive. How do you acquire a real estate asset with only $5,000?
The $5,000 doesn't buy the park. It covers due diligence inspections, title policy, and initial operating capital. The key is acquisition through seller financing.
For our listeners who might not be familiar, what exactly is seller financing?
It means the current owner acts as the bank. They hold the note, and you pay them monthly based on the profits you generate. It eliminates the need for institutional banks and massive upfront capital.
So how do you convince a park owner to take a $5,000 down payment and trust you with their asset?
You emphasize the long-term, stable income stream for them. They get monthly payments without the headaches of management, and the asset is their collateral. If you default, they reclaim it. It's an easy exit for them.
So you target undervalued parks operating at a high cap rate.
Yeah, a cap rate is the annual net operating income divided by the property's value. A 10% cap rate means it generates 10% of its price in profit annually. You're targeting parks where the owner's burnt out.
These parks usually have no digital presence, use paper ledgers, have under-market rents.
And your value-add strategy is your implementation strategy. You use the same $500 level tools, a free website, and free ads on Facebook Marketplace to increase occupancy.
And here's the magic. If a park is valued at $200,000 and it's running at a 10% cap rate, it's netting $20,000 annually. If you use your digital skills to increase that net income to $30,000 annually, the market now values it at a more typical 8% cap rate.
The math is simple. $30,000 annual profit divided by an 8% market cap rate means the asset's valuation has instantly jumped to $375,000. You've rapidly created over $175,000 in equity, turning your initial $5,000 investment into a massive asset jump within a year.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's cover the final high-level lessons from running all these businesses. The first is about sales and the power of rejection.
Yeah, he talks about doing door-to-door sales in Eastern Europe for 2 years, selling in Hungarian and being rejected tens of thousands of times.
That's brutal.
It's brutal, but it rewired his brain. Even as a confessed introvert who still hates fails, he developed this understanding that every no is closer to a yes.
Sales is the fastest way to test and iterate ideas.
And he encourages young people to take jobs in cold sales for this exact reason. It's the fastest, hardest education you can get in business psychology.
The next lesson is the unsexy advantage.
We talked about how everyone wants to build the next Facebook or the sexiest AI app. That makes those markets the most competitive.
The successful entrepreneur embraces the unsexy ideas, RV parks, vending machines, niche directories, gutter cleaning AI, precisely because no one else is looking there. This is where you find the persistent, high-margin profit.
And conversely, you have to learn to identify mirage opportunities.
What defines a mirage opportunity?
These are problems that seem obvious and huge, like fixing the password problem or creating the ultimate group app for college campuses. These ideas consistently fail for everyone who tries them.
So everyone's trying to fix it and failing. You have to assume they're not idiots. It suggests a fundamental misunderstanding of the market or human behavior.
Step away from the mirage. And finally, we confront the ultimate trade-off, which is the most critical question. Many people like the idea of entrepreneurship, but not the day-to-day grind.
It's not automatic freedom. In the early years, it's often more of a prison than a 9-to-5. You trade stability and predictability for volatility and just crushing mental load.
Which leads to this profound concluding insight. He recounts being assessed by a psychiatrist in his undergrad years who noted, as one line in an 8-page document, that he had delusions of grandeur.
Wow.
Unrealistic expectations about how his life would turn out. And he kept that report, highlighted it, and uses it as motivation. He realized that for him, success often doesn't feel like a choice, it feels like a compulsion.
Fueled by an element of personal trauma, experiences, upbringing, and toxic fuel, leading to that unreasonable risk-taking.
The pursuit of entrepreneurship, especially this kind of repeated risky venture, might not be driven by rational financial planning, but by a deeper, perhaps irrational need to prove something that stability just cannot satisfy.
So if you're listening, we've given you the foundational mindset to overcome fear, the strategic imperative to copy success, and 3 detailed, actionable ideas for $500, $1,000, and $5,000.
And the last thought we want to leave you with, building on that discussion about insecurity and internal motivation, is this. Is the trade-off of instability worth it for you? Or is your drive to pursue entrepreneurship fueled by a deeper, perhaps irrational need to prove something to yourself or the world?
Mull on that. Let the answers to that question guide your next step. Apply these lessons, test fast, and follow the profit. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.